The industry believes there is a path forward that will provide maximum safety benefits in the shortest period of time. We call this approach FLEX, an acronym for Diverse and Flexible Coping Capacity. It involves using additional portable equipment and backup systems to ensure that we can provide an uninterrupted supply of electricity and cooling water to protect critical plant safety systems at all times. This approach is consistent with implementing the NRC's top-tier recommendations and builds on concepts used successfully to provide additional safety margins at our facilities after the tragic events of 9/11. After 9/11, U.S. nuclear operators assumed a scenario where the plant suffered a large fire or explosion that disabled vital equipment. In such a scenario, it is impossible to predict exactly which equipment or systems would be affected. So we took an innovative approach, focusing on what was necessary to keep the reactor cool, assuming almost everything was lost. We purchased portable equipment like generators and pumps. These are stored away from the reactor and used to respond regardless of the location of an explosion, aircraft impact, or fire. As I said earlier, we're unique among nuclear operators around the world in the extent to which we plan for these type of events or have been required by the NRC to be capable of protecting public health and safety in these type of events. 9/11 work gives us a 10-year head start on dealing with unexpected events. The major lessons learned from Japan is that we must be prepared to handle catastrophic events simultaneously at multiple sites. We also must assume that access around the site could be a challenge. Under the FLEX approach, nuclear plant operators will buy and maintain additional sets of portable equipment and locate them in diverse locations at their sites. On top of this, additional equipment and supplies will also be pre-staged off-site to support prolonged operation without access to key permanent equipment. The U.S. approach to reactor safety is based on multiple levels of safety. Think in terms of 3 layers of safety: protection, mitigation, and emergency response. The FLEX strategy represents a significant expansion of the second layer, our capability to cope and mitigate the consequences of extreme external events that may exceed our plant's design basis in ways that cannot be accurately predicted. In fact, of course, our response to Fukushima will add extra margin in all 3 circles of protection. Just a few words about public opinion. It should come as no surprise that the accident at Fukushima had a negative impact on public attitudes to nuclear energy. But we see signs that favorability is recovering. Favorability to nuclear energy slipped from 71% before Fukushima to 46% in April of last year, but has since recovered to 62% in September of last year. And here's another encouraging sign. Perceptions of nuclear safety by the public are exactly where they were February of 2011, before the accident, and in September of 2011. And here are more encouraging signs for the industry's future. Last December, NRC certified the AP1000 design. That clears the way for issuance of the Combined Construction and Operating License, or the COL as we call it, for the Vogtle 3 and 4 and Summer 2 and 3 projects in Georgia and South Carolina, which would then allow them to start all safety-related construction. NRC is expected to approve issuance of the Vogtle COL later today. Southern Company and Scanner have invested well over $1 billion on both site preparation and the procurement of long lead items for the plants. Both projects are on schedule and on budget. Vogtle 3 and 4 should be online in 2016 and 2017, and Summer 2 and 3 in 2016 and 2019, according to the current schedules. In addition to the AP1000 design cert and the licenses for Vogtle and Summer, other design, certifications, and license applications are making their way through the NRC process, as you can see from this slide. The 10 other COLs being reviewed at NRC represent 16 reactors. Given low natural gas prices, soft power markets, slow economic growth, no growth in demand for electricity for the last 4 years, and uncertain prospects, we don't expect to see construction start on any of these in the near term. There are options will be exercised in the future if and when business conditions justify. If they are built, I suspect all of them are post-2020 plants. Due to the weak fundamentals in the U.S., the pace of new nuclear plant development in the United States will be relatively modest. Likely the 4 new reactors we've mentioned in Georgia and South Carolina being the only ones in service before 2020. This is in sharp contrast to overseas, where significant growth in new nuclear development continues. We may not need to build large numbers of new nuclear plants in this country in the near term, but we must maintain the capability to build new plants and to continue to support our 104 operating plants as the need arises. And we're confident that need will arise post-2020, if not sooner, because the long-term fundamentals really haven't changed. First, our nation is on a course to shut down between 10 and 20% of our coal-fired generating capacity in the next several years. Second, we really don't expect natural gas prices to stay at $2 to $3 per million BTUs for the next 40 to 60 years, the lifetime of a new nuclear power plant. Third, even at 1% annual growth in electricity demand, well below historical trends, the Energy Information Administration forecasts a need for 220 gigawatts of new electric capacity by 2035. And fourth, there really is value in fuel and technology diversity. Maintaining the capability to build new plants means maintaining a healthy supply chain, and that means we must capture a significant share of the growing world market. In the OECD nations, we will not see large-scale construction programs like they had in the 70s and 80s, because developed, highly electrified economies simply do not require that kind of rapid expansion, just like us. Developing economies, however, like India and China, are another matter, and nuclear construction in the non-OECD nations is booming. There are 63 new reactors under construction around the world, and another 156 on order or planned. The global export market for commercial nuclear materials, reactors, major components, and equipment grew from $6 billion in 1994 to $16 billion in 2008. The U.S. Department of Commerce estimates the international market for equipment and services at between $500 and $750 billion over the next 10 years. We frequently encounter the myth that the U.S. nuclear supply chain has totally disappeared. That is a myth, as you can see here. We no longer supply or manufacture what our suppliers would call the heavy metal, the large forgings, pressure vessels, steam generators, and turbine generators. Those are typically sourced outside the U.S. right now. But we retain our capability to manufacture the high-value precision components. U.S. industry is well positioned. American companies have among the most advanced and innovative technologies and designs, whether the advanced passive safety systems for large reactors or the small modular reactors now being developed, which may be particularly appropriate for developing economies. Foreign governments and companies recognize this. U.S. companies and government agencies can also offer training to achieve operational excellence and regulatory excellence too. The stakes in this area are huge. The commercial opportunity is large, but this goes beyond commercial opportunity and involves strategic national objectives. If the United States participates successfully in the world market, we strengthen our ability to influence non-proliferation policy and practices. If U.S. companies are not in the market, the U.S. government does not have the same seat at the table when those policies are being discussed. If the United States increases its market share worldwide, we can export our safety practices and operational expertise and thereby try to ensure higher levels of safety in nuclear power plant operations around the world. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, with 4,000 employees and a $1 billion a year budget, is highly regarded around the world for its technical expertise and capability. And no other nation has anything like our Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. Finally, successful participation in the world market creates jobs. An analysis last year by Oxford Economics found that the 4 AP1000 projects under construction in China support approximately 20,000 direct and indirect jobs in the United States.